All right, and we're back. We of course, are the M3 Collective. We're talking about the book today, Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine. And yeah, we're just having some impromptu discussions here. And just I want to sort of just start this talk today, or just start our conversation today, just talking about imposter syndrome at work. How are your saboteurs, how your saboteurs are lying to you. So, like, do either of you feel like you have imposter syndrome at work? And like, what are some mechanisms? What are some things that you do in order to sort of cope with it? I'd like to start with you, Anjanette.
Yeah, of course. Yes, absolutely. Imposter syndrome is real, and I've been using positive intelligence and like PQ strategies a lot more, and it really does work. So if you ever have that moment at work where it's usually doubt creeps in, and that's usually saboteur based. You're judging yourself like, "Oh my gosh, I don't think that I'm up to this," or you're judging your situation. It could be like, well, not everything's perfect. If I only had a little bit more time, or maybe if this project was different, right? So you're moving into saboteur mode, or you're trying to hyperachiever, which is another saboteur that Shirzad Chamine lists. These saboteurs hijack you in that moment. And as his book says, as soon as you start feeling that the pull of the saboteurs, you can be pulled into that vortex, and then you become more judgmental. It's like, oh, I don't even want to do this. I can't do this. And so for me, the shift to sage perspective and practicing that has been like instrumental. It's been like getting out of that vortex of negativity, which is all self-generated. It's usually based off of false assumptions about the situation or your own performance. So there's two different things here. Number one is being able to shift into sage perspective, which is, okay, yeah, I'm feeling that self-doubt, but I am going to take a break. And then, it could be like a 5-second break, and just feel your feet on the ground and start to get really granular. Like, oh, I can feel the pressure of my feet on the ground. Or if you go to the washroom and you wash your hands, you become curious, you go into explore, which is another activate power of positive intelligence. You start to feel the warmth of the water, the lather of the soap, the smell of the soap. And what that does is it starts to pull you out of your negative thinking. It starts to pull you outside yourself and out of the vortex. And it allows you then to shape yourself around, I can do this. Root yourself in your values, in your purpose, and then go from there. And then the second thing is about preparation. Being able to prepare for if it's a presentation or if it's a project. Am I putting in the work that's required? Like, why am I feeling self doubt? And to be able to question why you're feeling imposter syndrome without being like self judgmental or judgmental about your circumstances or blaming somebody else for it. I think that PQ allows you to discern versus judge. So you might have to think, well, maybe I feel imposter syndrome because I'm not fully prepared. I'm not, allocating 100% of my abilities and my effort into the job at hand. Maybe that's it. Maybe I need to course correct there. And it also allows you to add a bit of distance so that you can see, well, I just really am playing the victim here, or I really have a saboteur that's more about self doubt or hypervigilance or judgment. And then you can work on that. So for me, positive intelligence has been really helpful for imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Labeling it, yeah, that's just amazing. And then, of course, being prepared, is really the key there. That's great. Simon, now what are your thoughts on dealing with your saboteurs and imposter syndrome at work?
Yeah, I think being prepared is definitely a key to overcome this. And the other thing is, as you get more familiar and comfortable with your work or what you're doing, then you will find the imposter syndrome feeling will slowly goes away. However, with what I do, which is in the high tech industry, you always have to reinvent yourself over and over again. And And this feeling will come back whenever you try to do something new, do something different. Sometimes you are forced to do something new because the environments are changing. And so I think what's important is, like, we mentioned, is to plan things and be prepared. But also, I think starting with not to judge ourselves too much or too hard, because this is a new environment, right? And use whatever the tools that we have learned to overcome this, to help us be better at this new thing. And of course, I think relying on our faith, I think, is also very important. I believe that God has given each of us very specific gifts and our talents, and so if we can sort of tap into that and let those kind of the gifts that the God has given us shine through, and help us be better at what we do. So I think that's what I sort of like been relying on whenever I move into a new role, a new environment, a new type of work that I've been doing. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that, Simon. That's really good. For myself, I think that our saboteurs often get the better of us, right? And so I like what Anjanette, of course, started out with what she said, where you have to kind of label, right, what's going on. And I love labeling, because labeling allows me to understand and know what exactly is happening, right? And so our saboteurs will lie to us, right? And so, like, you'll have, like, the hyperachiever will come in and say that your worth depends on consistent success. Your judge will come in and say that you're not good enough, and others will find out. And so those are those two saboteurs that are working in order for you to think that you're not. Those are the saboteurs that are working to make you think that you don't belong there and are having some imposter syndrome. But what I find is that the sage response is that you have to remind yourself that I'm good enough regardless of the outcomes, right? And you have to practice self-compassion, right? And so you got to tell yourself, walking into this, that, hey, any and all of my mistakes are growth opportunities, not failures. And so oftentimes, you're in that meeting, or it's your chance to speak, or something happens, and you don't necessarily provide an adequate response, and people are kind of looking at you, but you just got to kind of take it for what it's worth and figure out what you can do better next time. And then also mirror the room, use mirroring, and see how other people address certain topics, and mirror your responses based from them. And those are some tools that I find are helpful in order to rid the imposter syndrome from my mind. But I think there's always going to be some nervousness whenever you're in a new situation and whatnot. So you just got to build and create mechanisms in order to be able to overcome them, in my mind. Yeah. All right.
Cut.